minors, and micro specialization. In the due course of the webinar, I request the audience to post their queries in the chat. All your queries will be addressed at the end of this webinar. I am jubilant to announce our two panelists for the session. Before starting the session, I would request the panelists to please switch on their cameras if they haven't. Our first panelist for the day is Mr. Devesh Gobind. He is the current advisor of Student Welfare Group IIT Kharagpur. And next we have with us Mr. Vedant Vani. He is the advisor at Student Welfare Group IIT Kharagpur. Also, he is currently pursuing minor in CSC and micro specialization in artificial intelligence. So without any further ado, I would like to request our esteemed panelists to carry forward this very insightful session.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Uh, so first in this session, we'll start off by discussing about what is subject registration, its deadline, and how to go about it. Then we'll talk about breadths, additionals, and minor micros. We'll also discuss uh, how to navigate through the central timetable, choosing the breadths in an effective way. And then finally, we'll conclude the session by skimming through some extra fun day regarding semester of internship programs, scholarships, chronos, BTP, interdisciplinary switchovers, etc., which we think you all should have starting your second year. Next slide, please. So apart from the core subjects which are rigid and compulsory, KGP offers us to take various other subjects of our choice, which may or may not be from the same department. In general, there are three modes to take up these subjects: breadths, additionals, and electives. The subjects taken up as additionals don't affect your main CG, and its grades are considered in a separate calculation as ACGPA. इनमें फक्का लगने का is still a problem though. However, the subjects taken up as breadths add to the CG, and scoring good or bad affects the CG positively or negatively accordingly. There is a shorter set of subjects that you can choose to take as breadths than in the case of additionals, i.e., many subjects are available only to take as additionals and not breadths. Also, one is required to take a minimum number of additional subjects. The subjects taken through this mode are called electives. The grades in the electives also affect the CG. While unlike breadths and electives, additionals have the flexibility to be dropped off even after 1 month of the subject registration. So that's a plus point. Now I request Devesh to take charge and talk about subject registration. Next slide, please.
Just wanted to confirm if I'm audible. Yeah, can you
Yes, you.
confirm? Cool. So moving on to what subject registration is. As many of you are new to the process of subject registration, I'll just give a short introduction to what subject registration is. So subject registration is a process which begins before the start of the semester, wherein you select the subjects you want to study in this semester. It ends it ends in the first week of the semester, but it can be extended in special cases if you have some unavoidable circumstances. If that is the case, then do reach out to your faculty advisor. So the subject registration process starts with exercising the choice of breadth, after which you can pay your fees for the semester and you can complete the academic registration post that. Now, when we talk about completing the academic registration, that is wherein you select your additionals and other subjects that you want to study in that semester. Do take note of this that you are supposed to complete your extra academic activities. So whether it is NSS, NCA or whatever, make sure that you take that, else you'll have to take that in your fifth semester, which is not favorable. So moving on to the breadth subjects. Breadth subjects are, yeah. So your curricula can be broadly divided into four segments: depth courses, breadth courses, electives, and additionals. Depth courses are courses that you're mandated to take by the institute to complete your degree. The same is the case with the breadth courses, but there is a minor difference. You can select which courses you want to take in the breadth. So, like as I mentioned earlier, you can exercise a choice of breadth. Now, as Vedant had mentioned earlier, selecting your breadth subject is somewhat important because it affects your CG. Now, you don't want to select a subject which might not perform good in and which might result your CG negatively. Contrary to the popular belief that CG does not matter, it does matter. So do take a lot of caution in selecting your breadth subjects. So yeah, like there are courses, like some of the things that you need to take into consideration are what is the credit of that specific breadth and what is the grade distribution for that specific breadth, until and unless you want to take a breadth because you're interested in that. So we have this initiative by the Meta KGP IIT Kharagpur. Meta KGP is an open source society of IIT Kharagpur which does projects. So Kronos IIT KGP, famously known as the gatekeeper of IIT KGP, shows you the trends of different subjects. So if you want, you can open this link. I think it would be good if someone from the associate members can copy it down and share it in the chat box. So long story short, Kronos gives you the grade distribution of different semesters for a specific subject. Now, as far as I remember, it starts from as back as 2017. So it removes the effect that the you might have to consider like the CG that is for the offline semesters and not for the online semester, because the grade distribution in the online semesters is not what might be for the offline semesters. So do take that into consideration and remove the CG distribution for 2019 and forward. Yeah. So yeah. Moving on to the central timetable, Vedant, would you like to explain that?
Yeah, thank you, Devish. So this is what the central timetable looks like. The entire week is divided into several time slots, each of which is identified by an alphabet, A, U, J, etc. So the yellow slabs are 2 hour slots, the brown ones are 3 hours, and so on, as mentioned in the last row below the table. All of the courses in KGP are mapped to one of these slots. The number next to the slot letters is the number of hours under that slot dedicated to the subject. For example, if a subject falls under slot A and requires 3 hours of it, it will be A3. And on the other hand, if it only partially requires 2 hours of it, it will be A2. According to the time requirements, sometimes a subject can either take up a partial slot or even span across multiple slots. While choosing additionals and breadths, this is the first thing one has to consider. As if there are slot clashes, you won't be able to register for two courses sharing the same slot. There's one thing, however, that there are certain slots which, despite having the same timings, have different identifier letters. For example, on Monday, the lab slot J and the slot U have the same timing but are different slots nevertheless. So while registering on ERP, it won't throw you any error of slot clash. So you have to be careful if, as this may not be physically possible to attend both the lectures simultaneously, unless you have Harry Potter's time turner or if it were an online sem. Apart from that, in certain special cases, if there is no mandatory attendance in either one of the two courses and you have informed both the profs, and uh, so that the test clashes are avoided, then the student can consider proceeding with both the courses. Next slide, please. So generally, a student opts for additional courses for one of the two reasons. First is having a genuine interest in the subject, and the other is criteria fulfillment towards pursuing micro, either of those. Mostly it's the latter. In order to register for an additional, we have to apply for them one by one under the LOV, which is short for list of verticals, and request the approval of the concerned teacher. One can apply for multiple subjects at a time, and the status of their approval request will be indicated on ERP, and the student will also receive a mail once it's accepted or rejected. Then we'll be able to register for those subjects only if the teacher has concurred with us taking it. I approved for it. A detailed documentation regarding cases of backlogs and deregistrations should be available on ERP and is handled by the FACAD and HOD on case by case basis. So might want to look it up later. Next slide, please. Now coming to those micros and minors I was talking about. So as I previously mentioned, apart from the major BTech, MTech, BArch degree, whatever, which is the one which you are enrolled in via JOSA, KGP also provides us with something called a minor degree in the department other than your core. It is offered to the students who have completed all the requisite subjects as mentioned in the minor curricula. Uh, can someone open that link, please? The PDF.
Yeah, just a minute.
Obviously, these subjects have to be completed before graduation. We can apply for these while registering. We can apply for a minor while registering for the third year. And it's recommended that everyone apply for the minor of their choice, even if they are unsure about the completion, because it's not compulsory to complete a minor if applied, as it's not reflected anywhere on the degree or any. So, if one fails to complete the minor after application. There is a minimal CGP criteria, I think, of 7.5 to be maintained from fifth sem till graduation in order to successfully achieve a minor. Well, a minor degree in, let's say, computer science is a valuable point in your CVs and also helps if one wants to pursue higher studies. Apart from that, in CDC, there are some top companies which open only for circuital branches and the students of other devs pursuing minor in CSE. So that's another point why you should consider applying for a minor. Also, for some branches, it's easier to pursue certain minors than the other branches because of their core structure. For example, in my branch, instrumentation engineering, pursuing a minor in CSE is very easy because we just have to take up three electives and algo lab. Also, these don't offer any slot clashes with our core subjects, and the other three required subjects are already included in our core. So I see there is a question how many minors we can take up at max. So we can only take one minor, but then you can physically only complete, it's practically possible to only complete one minor because lots of subjects need to be completed, which is not possible.
So there is another question: does minor reflect CGPA? So I'm not sure
Yes.
about what that means, but it does not reflect in CGPA because they are additional courses, as far as I know.
Oh, I thought the question meant ki in our degree when it's written ki minor
Yeah,
in so and so is the CGPA written.
yeah,
So
वहाँ पे लिखा
yes,
हुआ है.
वहाँ पे लिखा
So
होता है.
another additional note, like when you get the degree, like it will be like chemical engineering with minor in computer science, something like that.
Mhm.
And I'll just share my screen again to like share the minor curricular document. Is it visible, Vedant?
Yes, it's visible. Can you jump to page 8?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is an example of minor in the subject criteria for minor in computer science. And as I was saying, some branches already have a few of these courses in their core curricula. Like, for example, in my branch, instrumentation, this computer architecture course and digital circuits Wale lab and theory are already included in my course, so I need not take them up again. So I just had to take algo lab and the three electives mentioned. Similar is the case with EE and ECE peeps too. So yeah, sure, especially these peeps surely do consider applying for a minor in CSE because it's very easy to
Also,
get that.
like as mentioned here, you have to take a total of 6 courses. Taking these 2 courses are compulsory. You can select either one of these two, like either you can select 2A or 2B. So like either you can complete this segment or this segment. You have to complete at least one of them, and you have to like again this is compulsory and these are the elective. Like you have to take 3 electives as approved by the Senate to get them. The
Yes,
structure is
Aditya,
pretty.
the three electives should be from CSE branch only. We'll
The
take
struct.
up subsequent questions at the end of the session for
Yeah.
time considerations.
So you can
Now,
find this doc. Yeah. Vedant, I think I can demonstrate where they can find all these other things. So just a
This
minute.
minor curricula doc, actually, I always Google search it. Minor curricula KGB PDF, and the first link pops up.
Yeah.
We'll be sharing the PPT with this PPT with you anyways, along with the recording of the session. So no worries about that.
So this is where you can, okay, yeah, this is where you can see the central timetable. It will be updated soon. This is for the last semester. And you can see the subjects with the minor curricula is here. I am like not able to find the micro curricula, so you can find it by Googling it. Yeah, it might be updated, but I'm not sure about that. And uh, as for the subject registration, you're supposed to go here and apply at student academic activities. The student academic activities is not available as of now. It was removed from the RP recently. It was available here 1 week ago. I checked it, and it should appear very soon. The administration will be working on it, so don't need to worry about that.
Yeah, on
And
27th it will be available according
yeah,
to the latest mail.
and it will be highlighted in blue because blue means it. Blue links mean that they are active.
Mhm.
So yeah, I guess that covers most of the things that I be sure. And you have to pay your fees from here. So you generate demand and you pay the fees. I guess you might be familiar with that feature because you might have paid the fees before. So I'll just share the presentation again.
So as some of you are asking in the chat box, no, it's not compulsory to complete a minor once you've applied for it, which is the same as, yeah, you can leave it in the middle. And yeah,
So just wanted to confirm, is my screen visible?
it is visible. It is visible.
Yeah.
And regarding the question, uh, that are minor courses also involved in overall CGPA calculation? That depends on uh, by through what mode have you chosen those subjects as breadths or additionals or electives. If they are via additional, then no, it won't be considered in the main CGPA. Additional CGPA is calculated differently, ACGPA, as I mentioned. Now, coming back to micro specialization, unlike a minor, it's very specific in its field of study and is easier to complete because of less credit requirements. Like, for example, my micro is in AI. Similarly, there exists micro specializations in other specific topics like rubber technologies, intellectual property rights, optics, etc. An interesting thing about the subjects of micros is that they can be taken as a replacement to the otherwise compulsory breadth subjects. So if anyone finds their HSS or IM breadths too boring or irrelevant, they can apply for a micro and then see that new subjects have been added to their available list of breadth subjects, and then you can select one of those as a replacement. This is safe to do because it's again not compulsory to complete a minor or a micro after applying for it, and it does not get reflected anywhere if one fails to complete it. Also, regarding additional subjects, keep in mind that some of them have prerequisite subjects which need to be completed in a previous sem. So, like, you cannot procrastinate a prerequisite subject to the final semester because then you won't be able to take the seat subject after graduation, right? Therefore, it's recommended that whenever possible, that is, whenever there are no slot clashes, complete as many minor micro required subjects as you can because one never knows about the next year's slot clashes. Next slide, please. Devesh.
Yeah, so moving to the SAIP, that is Semester Away Internship Program. It is a new program that was started by a college this year, wherein student enrolled in 4-year courses can take up an internship in their 7th semester, and students have to register for this at the end of this 4th semester. Now, if you want a more detailed insight on what SAIP is, I would recommend going through the documents that were published by a college. But my personal take on SAIP would be against it in case you're considering for a job at the end of 4 years, because you have your compulsory, not it's not compulsory, but you have your placement process starting in the seventh semester. So it will overlap, and if you're aiming for a job, it's not really recommended because it might affect your performance in the placement seasons. But in the other case that you're pursuing, that you want to pursue higher studies or you want to go into research, it is a very lucrative opportunity.
Now that SAIP was something which has been very recently introduced, it wasn't there in our time. So yeah, more info will come up on it as and when it gets more solidified. So have an eye for that. Now coming to what are BTPs. The final academic year in KGP is generally a peaceful one after the placements are sorted because there are not many credits allotted to the last two sems. However, if one has taken up a BTP MTP, this might not be the case. So a BTP and MTP stands for BTech Term Project and MTech Term Project respectively. It's like a guided research project done under a KGP prof from either the same or different department. A BTP MTP is done in the last two semesters as is written. Okay, without loss of generality, I'll talk about only BTP here because MTP is also the same thing, just that the timeline is shifted by 1 year. So yeah, coming to it, BTP consists of two parts, BTP 1 in the seventh semester and optionally the continuation of the same project as BTP 2 in the last sem. BTP 1 is of 3 credits and BTP 2 is of 6 credits. One can only take a BTP 2 if they have completed BTP 1 of the same project. So BTP is a nice year-long project to add to your off-campus resume after graduation and a great way to secure LORs from the prof, which is needed while pursuing higher studies. One reason sometimes people won't wanna consider doing a BTP during the final year is because, as they said, uh, CDC placement process happens that year, and BTP one's timeline and the CDC placements thing happen at the same time, and some profs might not be considerate enough about your CDC thing in their subject's workload. Well, we can start applying for a BTP right from the third year and reserve the professor's approval to take it in the final year. In many cases, along with CG and profile suitability, the profs also give their BTPs on a first come first serve basis. So if it is already decided that you are going to opt for it, better not delay it too much and approach the profs for a BTP like immediately after your third year starts. Sorry.
Also, one important note regarding BTP, like as Vedant had mentioned, taking it up is not preferable, but most of the profs are considerable. Like, trust me, at least in chemical engineering department, they are. So profs don't give you that much load in the like in the fifth semester in case you have CDC. So you can consider that option because of the benefits that it gives. Uh, yeah, if you don't take a BTP, you have to take a coursework and you have to appear for exams. And sometimes if the professor is chill, the BTP is also chill. But for that, you need to approach the right professors. And to figure out who are the right professors, you have to ask your seniors who have taken BTP under that specific prof. So yeah, I think that covers everything.
Yeah. Now,
This brings us to the end of this informative session. I'm extremely grateful to our panelists for taking out time from their hectic schedule and sharing their valuable insights with us. I'm sure that our listeners would definitely take back some valuable fun day from this session. I would also like to thank the audience for their patience and hope that your queries have got cleared. Last but not the least, I want to thank all my teammates for their efforts and who have contributed so much for making this event a success. Thank you so much.